Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we aren't just discussing a typical topic. We are about to embark on an epic journey across India's massive and cinematic geographical canvas. A canvas that has literally shaped our history, our culture, and our lives for thousands of years. We aren't just going to look at static lines on a map today. Instead, we'll take a sweeping spatial journey from the freezing peaks of the Himalayas all the way down to the roaring oceans. So, strap in and let's get started.
Okay, let's dive right into this. We've broken down today's journey into 5 key parts. First, India's geographic canvas. Second, the Great Himalayan Wall. Third, the ancient Indus system. Fourth, the Ganga River network. And finally, the mighty Brahmaputra. Let's go. Part 1, India's geographic canvas. Beyond the coordinates. When you look at India on a map, its latitudinal and longitudinal spread is roughly 30 degrees. And the Tropic of Cancer essentially slices right through the middle, acting as a massive climate divider for the country. Now here's a really interesting geographical puzzle for you. If India's north-south and east-west spread are both about 30 degrees, then why on earth is the north-south length in kilometers longer than the east-west width? Well, the answer lies in the shape of our planet. Just think of the Earth like an orange. The longitude lines, the ones running top to bottom, actually converge and shrink as they get closer to the poles. Latitudes, on the other hand, always stay parallel. So when we measure the distance from east to west, we're measuring across shrinking lines, which is why that distance is shorter in kilometers. Makes sense, right? And this massive 30-degree spread brings up another fascinating question. Why is there a whole 2-hour daylight gap between Arunachala Pradesh in the east and Gujarat in the west? The math here is actually pretty straightforward, and it's all about the Earth's rotation. It takes the Earth exactly 4 minutes to rotate 1 degree. So multiply our 30-degree spread by 4, and what do you get? 120 minutes, or exactly 2 hours. Literally, when the sun is rising in Arunachala, people in Gujarat are still fast asleep. Obviously, having a 2-hour time difference in one country could cause a lot of chaos. And to handle that, we have this magic number, 82 degrees and 30 minutes east longitude. This line passes right through Mirzapur and Uttar Pradesh, and it anchors our Indian Standard Time, or IST. But why this specific number? Well, it's because it fits perfectly into the international 7.5-degree rule, which keeps global time zones neatly organized into straightforward 30-minute increments. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is our borders. You might be surprised to learn that our longest international border isn't with China or Pakistan. It's actually with Bangladesh, stretching a massive 4,096 kilometers. This is because it's an incredibly porous and winding border that zigzags right through rivers and agricultural fields. Contrast that with China, where we have the complex line of actual control, spanning extreme terrains. And our shortest border? That's a highly strategic 106-kilometer stretch shared with Afghanistan along the Wakhan Corridor. Moving on to Part 2, the Great Himalayan Wall, born from collision. Let's shift our cinematic map upward to the north. Believe it or not, where these towering mountains stand today, there used to be a massive ancient body of water called the Tethys Sea. Now, the Himalayas aren't just a single mountain. They are a series of massive vertical walls. The best way to understand them is through this vertical sequence. First, we have the Trans-Himalayas, which actually formed before the main range, kind of like the prequel. Then comes the roof of the world, the Greater Himalayas, boasting peaks over 6,000 meters high. Below that is the Lesser Himalayas, home to all our beautiful tourist hill stations and meadows. Finally, right before you hit the plains, we have the Shiwaliks, acting as our southern gate. Keep this north to south sequence clear in your mind, as it's absolutely crucial. At the very top is the Karakoram Range, home to the mighty K2. Then, moving south, you hit the Ladakh Range, followed by the Zanskar Range, and then the main Himalayas kick off with the Pir Panjal Range. It's really important to picture this layout because, as we'll see in a moment, the mighty Indus River cuts right between the Ladakh and Zanskar ranges. That brings us to Part 3, the ancient Indus system. Prepare to have your mind blown because these rivers are actually older than the majestic mountains they flow through. Yep, you heard that right.
So, how can a river be older than a mountain? The answer is a concept called an antecedent river. As the Himalayas were slowly pushing upward over millions of years, these powerful rivers didn't just casually change their course. Instead, they acted like a giant saw, continuously cutting through the rising rock. The ultimate proof of this is the Bunji Gorge, where the Indus River has carved a mind-boggling 5,200-meter deep valley. It was a million-year battle between two forces of nature, and the river won. Naturally, sharing the water of such monumental rivers is a massive deal. Under the historic 1960 Indus Water Treaty, control of the western rivers, the Indus, Jhelum, and Chenab, was granted to Pakistan, while the eastern rivers, the Ravi, Beas, and Sutlej, were granted to India. What's amazing is that despite all the regional geopolitical tensions, this remains one of the world's most successful water-sharing agreements. Let's shift our focus now to Part 4, the Ganga River Network, the master collector. We are leaving the western mountains behind and entering the heartland plains of India. The Ganga doesn't just start as the Ganga. Just trace the journey of the Alaknanda River. It acts as the ultimate master collector, gathering power and water at each massive confluence. It merges with different rivers at Vishnuprayag, Nandaprayag, Karnaprayag, and Rudraprayag. Finally, at Devprayag, it meets the Bhagirathi, and that is where the mighty Ganga is officially born. Once it enters the plains, the Ganga system shows two very different personalities. You have steady, reliable right bank tributaries like the Yamuna and Son, but contrast those with a left bank river like the Kosi. The Kosi is incredibly unpredictable and is often called the sorrow of Bihar. It carries so much sediment that it frequently blocks its own path and shifts its course. In fact, it has literally shifted its course by 120 kilometers over the last few decades. And this brilliantly illustrates why the Ganga is more than just a river, it's a lifeline. Over its 2,525-kilometer journey within India, it deposits millions of tons of glacial silt across the plains. This silt is essentially a powerful natural fertilizer, creating some of the most fertile land on the planet and sustaining over 40% of India's population. It is absolutely crucial for our survival. Finally, we transition to Part 5, the mighty Brahmaputra, the river of many faces. We're heading to the northeast now to witness a dynamic force of immense energy, creation, and destruction. What's wild about this river is how it completely transforms its character and its name based on the geography it traverses. Up on the flat Tibetan plateau, it's known as the peaceful Tsongpu, the purifier. But as it plummets down steep gradients into Arunachala Pradesh, it becomes the raging torrent known as the Dihang. In Assam, it transforms into the massive Brahmaputra, acting as both creator and destroyer. And finally, as it enters Bangladesh, it takes on its final form, the Jamuna. The journey of this river is just mind-blowing. After flowing eastward for 1,600 kilometers in Tibet, you'd think it was heading straight for the Pacific Ocean. But then, it hits the 7,782-meter-high Namcha Barwa Peak and takes an incredible, violent, hairpin turn to the south. This great U-turn converts the potential energy of the high Tibetan plateau into massive kinetic cutting power, allowing it to slice right through the mountains into India. Unlike the Ganga, the Brahmaputra carries an immense, heavy sediment load. When it slows down in the Assam valleys, it dumps all that debris. During the monsoons, this causes devastating floods that ravage the plains. But wait, there's a flip side. That same sediment creates Majuli, the world's largest river island, and eventually helps form the incredible Sundarbans Delta. It truly is the ultimate creator and destroyer. And that brings us to the end of our geographic expedition. I want to leave you with this thought to reflect on. Is a nation's map really just drawn with static lines on a piece of paper? Or, just as these mountains and living rivers continuously reshape our physical geography, are they also continuously reshaping our human history, our geopolitics, and our everyday lives? Think about that. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.